alarm goes off, you've got difficulty switching between tasks, or even you might not even remember what the alarm is for. You might like thoughtlessly turn the alarm off and then carry on and not even remember you've done that, right? So it can have much more far-reaching effects than you may think. It can't be solved all that easily. If it could be, then people with ADHD wouldn't necessarily be disabled by these things.
Social model of disability right there.
Very true. I've already mentioned how this can affect sort of people with ADHD generally, but, more specifically, sort of adults with ADHD underperform in academia and professionally. I say in academia, they underperform academically and professionally. And this is based on not sort of just anyone else. This is based on their intellectual potential, right? So let's say you're sort of intellectually capable of doing something, right? You've got the sort of intelligence, the smarts, the mind to do it, but you're not able to follow through on those things or reach that potential because of these like sort of setbacks from ADHD, essentially, right? It's not necessarily just sort of you're really bad with the work in general. You could be, or you're really lazy. You could be very, very motivated as a worker. I mean, I can be very motivated in what I do, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't have problems with doing it. Like, I enjoy what I do, and I don't have a boss telling me to do it. And I want to do it, but that doesn't. None of those things mean that I absolutely can do all the work that I need to do when I need to do it, right? If I could just simply do something to stop these things from happening, I would. But I can turn alarms off for hours and kind of not really think about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I put on snooze every 10 minutes, every 9 minutes, I hit the off button without even a thought. It just almost automatically happens. And you could say, oh, well, get up and do it. And I'm like, man, like, I can sit with an alarm on for a bit and I could put that, like, turn it off, go sit back down at my desk and forget that I turned the alarm off. And you can't just stop working immediately, right? So it's not necessarily an issue of motivation. It could be with time management or sort of not just time management in terms of like, being able to complete tasks on the right time, but being late, not being able to pay attention and things like that. But you can kind of see pretty clearly that not being able to perceive time, to the same level as your peers or other people without ADHD, right, might result in a lot of these issues. Time management, obviously, for one, organizing your work, prioritizing tasks, because if you can't judge how long a task is going to take, like, really, you can't judge how long it's going to take, you're not going to be able to prioritize tasks properly.
Yeah, and it also sounds kind of like working memory stuff coming in there as well. Like, if you're turning an alarm off and then forgetting you turned the alarm off, that's sort of a working memory thing, which is also ADHD.
Yeah, absolutely. All of this sort of stuff comes under executive functions, right? So it's executive function isn't just, I mean, we discussed this in an episode not too long ago, but it's not just, not being able to do a thing. I think working memory and dealing with these sorts of things kind of comes into executive function as well. And it is quite far-reaching, the effects of ADHD, right? It can affect so many areas of your life. And the sort of not being able to gauge how long something's going to take, people don't, I think, understand that, right? I don't think people quite understand what the experience of that is, right? Like, even if I know something takes a certain amount of time, it's almost as though I think I can fit more time into that time, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think it's also, I think when people are estimating the amount of time something's going to take, it's almost like you think about the task and then the answer is just given to you by some sort of like system in your brain. Like, you don't go like, you don't think and like rehearse through every single task you're going to do, every single part of the task, and like go, well, that's probably 30 seconds and then that's probably 60 seconds. You just sort of think about it and you make an estimate, and you kind of don't do that. You just got a little thing in your head that goes 10 minutes, maybe. And just imagine that you didn't have that. I guess it's because they think they're doing that. They think they're doing the estimating, whereas actually just little voices there going, 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough because as well, right? Like, you might not even be able to, and it might not even just be, not being able to track the passage of time or know how long something's going to take because you can't really get the time in your head. It could also be that you're just not remembering things that you have to do.
It took last
or how
time.
long did it took last time? Or like, oh, actually, wait, hold on. When I do this, I need to do this other thing, and that will take an extra 5 minutes.
Sure.
But like, it's just like I don't count it in my head because it feels so small, right? That's the thing as well. This also comes into deadlines and stuff, right? If you've got something that's a month away, it's not now. And if it's not now, then it's basically never. I've got ages, right? I've got so long before I need to do anything about this, that a month, whatever, and then it's like a week away and you're like, I do have all week, and then it's a few days and you're like, oh no, now is happening. And this thing that was not now has gone from being not now to suddenly now.
That was a problem for future Corey. And now I am future Corey.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, no.
It's that kind of like, because if you can't judge time all that well, sometimes you can get into this, and this is something that I don't necessarily experience personally, but I've heard a lot of people talk about, is the sort of now, not now mentality. I mean, I do have that to some degree, but there's more gradations of it, right? Like, you can have that almost binary view of time of, well, it's either now or it's later. Or later is just not now, right? And if you're mostly working in the now, then that causes some issues, and with deadlines as well. I mean, it's not just time blindness. And I look, I know we're talking about the problems that time blindness can cause, but I think it's also important to talk about how time blindness can mix with other parts of ADHD to cause sort of almost unique problems, or they can work together to make different problems, right? For example, impulsivity. People with ADHD can be impulsive. That's not just saying something, blurting something out that you shouldn't or whatnot. That could also be taking on more tasks than you're able to do because you're not really thinking, you're just taking them on. And then you realize, oh, I've overworked myself. I cannot do all of this, right? And so then that, coupled with the not being able to not be able to understand the passage of time, results in being way too overworked. And either you get it all done and then you burn out, which means it's even harder to manage your time and whatnot, or you can't get it all done and you face the consequences there. And all of this stuff leads to stress, which can make everything just so much worse. And also, the inattentiveness of ADHD as well can have these sorts of impacts. But yeah, I just want to get across here that sort of time blindness, this inability to, or issue with understanding the passage of time, can have lots and lots of effects that result in you not just not being on time, but not even really being able to do much about it because of all of the other things that come along with ADHD, right? So many people have said, oh, just use an alarm, use a planner. How's that supposed to help if I cannot wrap my head around the fact that something that's happening in 2 weeks is like 14 days away. It's not that long, right? 2 weeks away is so far in the future. But it's not that far in the future, right? Do you know what I mean? You can't make accommodations for something that someone sort of lacks. You can't make accommodations to give someone something that they cannot process in their brain. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and also I think that the people who are proposing solutions to you have not understood the problem. Like, they've understood the symptoms of the problem, but they don't understand the problem because it's not their experience, and they're not psychiatrists.
Yeah, and well, even some psychiatrists, fundamentally, right? The issue here, I think, is that people have this underlying belief that you can just decide to not have certain disabilities.
Yeah, and that's why I said this idea of when you try to estimate the amount of time something takes, you don't really estimate it. A little voice in your head or a little message in your brain just gives you the estimate. And in many people, the estimate is accurate, and so they don't have any problem in their life. Whereas, well, imagine that little voice never gave you a time.
Yeah.
Just imagine it wasn't there, because that's something you can imagine. What would they do if the little voice that told them how long to say when someone asks for an estimate of time, how would they go about estimating it? Probably quite badly.
Yeah, not well at all.
Or even worse, imagine that you did have the little voice, but the little voice was always wrong.
Always
wrong. It was just 20 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, and it took a day.